All right then, gang. Welcome to the Silver Lining. I am Andy Reid, your host, and today I reckon I have got the best smile in the finance world. Guys and gals, Bernard Desmond, I've got to know pretty well over the last couple of years. Really highly regarded in the finance mortgage broking space. But way before any of that, the guy is he's just a genuine caring individual who puts all of that care into everything that he does with other people, collaborators, clients, you name it. You know, this guy puts his make sure he makes sure that he looks after whoever's opposite the table. Bernard, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, pretty good, Andy. Good to see you, buddy.
And you, mate, and you. So Bernard has recently opened his own mortgage broking business called Blank, and you know, timing. I bet for you at one point was a little bit, you know, really why have I done this now at one stage or another? But I think we had a bit of a conversation a month or two ago or a few weeks ago when you sort of just said, look, you know what, screw it, I'm going for it, and that's just so typically you, right? That's just so typically you, which I love. Guys and gals, for those of you that haven't tuned in to the Silver Lining, it really is a show about helping people get through and get from the situation that they find themselves in, whether it's Corona or irrespective of whatever the case may be. If you're having some clouded judgment, if you've got some doubts, some anxiety in your mind, generally speaking, if we can help to provide you with a little tiny bit of perspective, it'll give you that little bit of breathing space that will allow you to move forward with whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. My man, how's things for you? How's your world?
Yeah, pretty good, Andy. We're just trying to navigate like most of our clients are. It is quite a fluid market. You know, Customers are trying to hang on to their jobs. Trying to keep on top of their commitments. And also trying to stay sane. Really. There's a lot of uncertainty. So all I've been trying to do and my staff are trying to do is give them some kind of certainty in this uncertain climate, whether and we're trying to tackle that with coming from a finance point of view, whether trying to help them get on top of their managing their money, so mortgage being one of the biggest commitments, can we put them in a better place? Can we save them some money? If what are the things that we can do? To be honest, I mean, it has been quite a tough time, getting calls, being at the front line where customers are calling and saying, "Hey, I've lost my job, or my job doesn't exist anymore, or I've had to take a pay cut because that's what I've been told by my employer." And um, being at the front line, I've been listening to and trying to navigate that with being a good listener, and then obviously trying to help them in any way possible, so that at least from a finance point of view, they know that they've got someone working in their best interest.
Yeah, look, man, I was having a conversation with a real estate team earlier this morning, and it was a really interesting chat because they were really sort of obviously everyone's volumes has dropped, so everyone's client base has dropped naturally, and they were talking about how they can stay connected with their consumers and how can they almost they were using the word incentivize people to really get back on the train. And I think what you said there about sort of just trying to help them by providing some form of certainty, I think is absolutely tremendous. And that's the thing that's doing us all in, right? It's that uncertainty. When's this thing going to end? None of us know, and it keeps getting pushed out, and we're all speculating, which makes it even more irritating because then we wind ourselves up even more, right? And it's frustrating. But mate, before we dig into that too much, we want to find out more about Bernard, the human, your story, where you're from, and how you got to be in the position that you're in.
Yeah, all right, beautiful. In terms of, so 7, 8 years in Australia this year. Um, Came here with my beautiful wife. Started a family over here. Started in the banking sector, working in the bank, and have made my way through that. From being a personal banker to a mobile lender, and then to eventually starting my own business, having owned a loan market franchise, and more recently, going out on my own with Blank Financial. So it's been a interesting ride, to say the least. It's been very
You've managed.
rewarding.
You've managed to pack in a fair bit, because we haven't even mentioned the two brilliant, amazing kids that you've managed to produce as
I,
well with that better half of yours, which is insane, man. Like, you've done quite a lot in a short space of
Yeah, look,
time.
I mean, that's what I just said was my from my professional side of things. I've got two beautiful kids. Jaden's, he's 6. Bella, she's 5, and my mum's here with us. I managed to send my brother to New Zealand because immigration rules just didn't allow him to come here. So
Mm.
it's I mean, Australia has been very kind to me and my family. It's a land of opportunities, and I think I'm just living my best life and my best dream. So very grateful for what it has provided me with, because I really came here with nothing, with just dreams and aspirations. And I think the one thing that I've just focused on is, if you just do the work and put yourself out there and be of service to your clients and do the right by everyone, just good things just happen. It's just a matter of time. I mean, my first 2 years were the hardest when I came here, because I was in Dubai for 10 years, and I was quite well established over there, and then to uproot myself from there, come and start here from the right from start, with no context, no reputation, and do it all over again. It's only 8 years. I mean, if you actually look back, it's not, I've not even completed 10 years. So, and 8 years I've gone from, being a migrant to, now having a successful business, um, to having a beautiful family, to having bought houses, to having bought my dream car, to, you know, um, you know, having met some beautiful people like yourself. And it's a beautiful place, man.
Mate, I love that, right? And I've sort of alluded to this one or two times, and I've had other people that have come on the show allude it to me as well. The respect and appreciation that you've got for the small things, like your focus on what you have to be grateful for, as opposed to what you've got to be grumpy about, is so in alignment with who you are as an individual. What I really hope is something that can come from this show, and people like yourself putting these messages out there. And I think what Corona has done to society, generally speaking, is it's one of those things that, when you don't know what you've got till it's gone, you then appreciate things that you all of a sudden you can't have anymore. But you have this on a daily basis. I know that you wake up every day grateful for who you are, where you are, and what you have around you and who you have around you. In terms of coming from overseas, having that transition, that immigration experience to Australia, having to start again. How did you feel? You said that those first 2 years were really difficult. How are you tested then? Like, because you're smart, like who you are, your demeanor. There would be times, absolutely, where you would be tested, and you would get frustrated. So tell me how you felt when you sort of back was to the wall when you first came over.
Yeah, look, simple things like, when I lived in Dubai, and after living in Dubai for 10 years, you're spoiled for choices. and you're not, like you've got everything done by labor's really cheap. So simple things like ironing your clothes, going to
Mm.
grocery shopping, mowing your lawn, or even fueling up your car, people are doing it for you. And then to come to Australia, this is real. Like, this is how, Dubai is a bit of a bubble. This is real. Okay, so when I
Mm.
come here and I had to start all over again, my first 2 years was the hardest. I had to learn to first be able to connect with people. So I didn't know, how I could, have a dialogue with anyone. Like, so I had to learn the culture. I had to learn footy. I had to learn, traveling by public transport. Like, I didn't have a car when I came here. I used to be on the Cranbourne line because my in-laws lived in Cranbourne, and I used
Mm-hmm.
to work in Elstonwick. So I used to take the Cranbourne line, get down at South Yarra, change the train, on the Sandringham line, get down at Elstonwick, walk on Glen Huntley Road. And I did that for 6 years, and I hated my life every single day,
Mm.
because, I came from a place where it was quite comfortable, and I doubted myself, but I just kept at it. Like, I looked at the positive of what this country had to offer. I
Mm.
said, if you keep pushing, this is the stepping stone. It will only get better from here. And I started focusing my energy on, understanding the culture, understanding, the local lending knowledge, understanding, how banks operated over here, how's the sales process working over here, how do agents work, how can I, and just started being of service, and started networking. And slowly, it took time. I mean, my first
Mm.
2 years were the hardest. And it was, I think, a good 3 years into having moved here. I started to get some traction, and I started to get some momentum. And then obviously my son was born, and then things just started falling in place.
Mm.
But throughout the process, uh, you, I was just constantly improving, constantly learning, constantly being curious about trying to sharpen my skill set. So when the opportunity comes, I can grab it and I can make use of it.
Mm. But look, mate, what I love about what you said there is that, and you said it sort of 2 or 3 times, is the necessity of hanging on to the reason that you got yourself into the situation in the first place. That goal, that end game, is what was driving you to just keep going, keep moving, keep pushing, and get you to where you want to be. How, in terms of, if we translate that into today, society's issues with corona, COVID, and restrictions, isolation, all that sort of stuff. We had a brief chat. Yeah, we had a brief chat yesterday, and I was not surprised in the answers that that you were giving me yesterday. Um, how do you feel your experiences moving countries has helped you to have your mind set in the right way to move forward during this period of time, where there's so much chaos, so much change, so much restriction with what it is that we do?
Yeah, look, I think one thing I've always known of is you can control what's controllable. So what I can control is my mind. I can control the thoughts that come in my head. I can control how I react to things. So while change is always going to be difficult, I'm using this time to improve my business. So we are having some downtimes, and I'm looking at, okay, how can I adapt and change the way we do things. Whether that be how we interact with customers, how are we collecting information, how are we communicating with our clients. As a business, am I making it easy for the customer? So when that customer is actually comparing their previous experiences, they will start saying, oh, this is a bloody good experience as to what we had with our previous broker or our banker, or through an online channel. So as long as I can create and get better in whatever I'm doing, that's what I'm focusing my energy towards right now in this time. adapting and just being nimble as a small business owner, I can make those changes pretty quickly. I can try a bunch of things. If it's not working, go back to finding a better way to getting feedback from clients, getting feedback from referral partners, and just trialing and error. You will eventually find a way that just perfectly will be the recipe for success, and then you just go and amplify on that. So
I love there's a couple of things that I really really love about that answer. The first one being that you don't need you don't need to be right every time. I love the fact that you've said trial and error. I've been wanting it to be said by someone, and it's been sort of mentioned and flirted around in a few of our conversations previously. But the words trial and error are so useful for now, because the textbook hasn't been written. No one knows what's going to be right, what's going to be wrong, and what have you. The fact that you are happy to test and taste and try and have a crack and get feedback, and that's the other thing, right? There's no point trial and erroring if you're going to make the judgment call on whether it's worked or not, because ultimately it's the end user who needs to make that judgment call as to whether it works. And that's the other reason, that's the other thing that I love about what you just said is, and again, speaking to lots of different teams, businesses in different industries, a lot of the focus has been, how can we still make money? What can I do to make money? And your focus is entirely different, but ends up resulting in a much better outcome that everybody else is trying to achieve anyway. You said just then, what can I do to make it easier for the customer? What can I do so that they can compare experiences even now during everything that's going on and feel that they've had a much better experiences despite being in a much higher level of anxiety because of situations that they find themselves in? That is it. That is the game right there. Focusing on the end user and then reverse engineering back from there as to how you can make their lives better by doing what you do.
There's no other way to do it. I mean, you're never going to get it right in the first go. But if you're prepared to, try, get live feedback, and look at what the customer is experiencing. As a business owner, I'm trying to make it easy for the customer. At the same time, it has to be efficient, and if you're solving a problem for the client that's keeping them up at night, and in my case, it's really simple. I made 3 different kind of clients. One is a first-home buyer that's never bought a property. The second is an investor who's bought many properties and is wanting to buy more. And the third is someone who's just fallen behind and is just not managing their money properly. So if I can understand what's keeping them up at night, and then try and solve that problem and make it easy throughout the process while I'm getting to that end goal, you're going to have a raving customer who's going to go and find you more similar 5 customers, and that those 5 will go and find the next 10. And it just, I mean, I haven't I wasn't born in Australia. I didn't go to school over here. I didn't go to college here. I've only been here for 8 years. So whatever I've built from talking to one talking to the other, and the word of mouth is quite, so if you do the right thing by your customer, and you do it, and you look at the long term goal, and you think that what's right for this customer, and you go home and you go to bed knowing that you've done your absolute best, you can't go wrong. There is just some magic in it that things just fall into place.
Love it, man. Absolutely love it. And that is so applicable to every single service product in any industry. That sheer one-eyed focus on your end user is paramount. And understanding and empathizing that they are, in deep trouble. They've lost their job. They're worried about losing their house. they haven't been organized. They've had their head in the sand hoping it was going to go away, which is what's happening in a lot of cases. They, you know, that sort of denial phase of things. And just looking to solve those issues by what you do, using what you do as a vehicle. That for me is absolute gold. Now, mate, you sound like Teflon in the respect that nothing sticks, but surely things frustrate you. Like, to give me something that whether it's business or life or whatever, give me something that you know, dents the smile of Bernard Desmond.
Look, for me, I'm in a service business, so you know, I'm not a product maker. I'm not manufacturing something. I'm in the service business, you know. So I'm relying on other service providers, and in it, for me right now, sometimes you know I hit my head on the wall, and you know, when you're stuck with you know stupid bureaucracy, policies, procedures that just don't, you know, the common logic does not, you know, come out, and you know you're trying to explain that you know there's logic in doing this way, but you just you know working with a big corporation, and you know they've got certain things and certain ways to do it. Like you know, simple fact, you know, like the whole world and and every single government saying you know stay at home, you know, do everything digitally, you know, don't step out. But you know, I mean, most of the banks in Australia have still not made any movements on the way mortgages are signed or executed. You know, mortgages are still being done as wet signatures. You know, and the number of signatures required, the number of you know witnessing required, you know, the number of places that you need to pre-fill and then send those documents, and you know, there's so much room to improve. And you know, I'm pretty sure that you know things will change, and they'll change quickly. And you know, in 6 months' time, when we look back at it, there will be a solution, and most things would have moved on, and you know, we would have. But I think it's a great opportunity for you know even the big businesses and big banks to move quickly and change and adapt, because you know your customers screaming out, "Hey, make it easy for me. I want a mortgage. You know, give me a decision quickly. Give me a good product. Fulfill that loan process pretty quickly. Make it digital. You know, like you know, I think there is." So those are the you know, because I'm in the service business, I can control what I can control, and then you just try and work around it to try and find a solution to make it as easy for your customer. You know.
Obviously you're dealing with a lot of big banks, lenders, and so on and so forth. Ears to the ground. I've obviously been hearing about you know processing times getting ballooned out, and that's probably what you're alluding to here with respect to the frustrations that you face on a daily basis. Because not only have you got to try and coordinate that manufacturing process, so the manufacturing of a loan for a client, but you've also got to manage the expectations of the client that wants everything even quicker than what they ever have done, because the fact that they're fearing losing their house or whatever the case may be. How are you finding it being in the middle of that sort of corporate juggernaut machine and the end user who is you know, they don't like banks at the best of times, right? So you know, and if you're the intermediate between the two, the mediator between the two, how do you manage to keep yourself, like you said, keep yourself sane when you've got sort of extreme pressures on both sides, be it time or anxiety?
Yeah, you just have to set the expectations right from the outset. So if you know, to give you an example, if you're dealing with a purchaser and there's a finance clause, you know, in 14 days due, and the borrower's still not started collecting all their information, and you know that you know you're going to take at least 3-4 days to get all the information. So you just have to try and avoid putting yourself in that situation where you go to banks that can give you a quicker decision. You try and manage and explain to the client that, look, I know your preference is to go to this bank, but this is why, you know, if you go there, we probably can't make those deadlines. You know, we will have to ask for an extension, you know, which means, you know, you're putting your window in, you know, your vendor might start thinking that, you know, is this deal even going to stick up now? Like, or are they going to be able to make the settlement? So it's just about managing expectations and being transparent from the beginning and understanding every stakeholder is aware that these are the processing times and this is how long it's going to take to get a decision, and then just keeping that communication line really open and feeding them information.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of what I refer to as rip the band-aid conversations, right? The quicker you have them, the less painful it is for everybody concerned. And what you said there about keeping that line of communication open and available is absolutely critical. It's one of those things. If you are in a service industry of any kind, I think in the old normal world, there might be a degree of respect sometimes to your privacy, to your privacy and your time off and your night times and stuff. But I think right now, we, service providers need to be a lot more sympathetic towards people's scenarios, and look, maybe be there that little bit more often, and for that little bit longer. I'd be confident that some of your conversations that would have taken, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, have taken maybe a little bit longer now.
And you're having conversations more regularly. Because your customers feeling anxious. It's taking more longer to get that yes, because banks are taking longer to process deals. Bank staffs are working from home, so they've got logistical issues to fulfill. Valuations are not happening. People are not getting access to the properties. So you just have to manage. There are a number of variables that come into play, and the only way you can solve it is by communicating and keeping everyone posted and making sure that they know that you're doing your absolute best to move forward. And you've got their best interest at heart.
Spot on, mate. Absolutely spot on. Now, get your crystal ball out, mate. Tell me, how do you feel? None of us know. How do you feel things are going to play out? So obviously, we can see that there's probably a likelihood that they will phase society back into flow. They won't just like turn the switch on and everybody just, goes hell for leather. How do you feel the rest of 2020 is going to play out, both in a business sense, but also in the sense of society, community? How do you feel people are going to behave moving forward?
I think, it's certainly going to change the way we interact and do things, both at work and in personal life. Being at work, I think the society is going to change, and there's going to be more work from home. There's going to be more flexible. There's going to be more leverage in technology. Socially, I think it's going to, change the way, it's going to be hard to see how it's going to take time to get back to normal life, to going back to those, social big gatherings and, events and parties and, because till we have a cure to this unknown disease, people are always going to be on the edge and apply caution and not be carefree about it. So, So do you think that, hypothetically speaking, I mean, us sports lovers, we're, desperate for some sort of ball sport action to be taking place. First game at the MCG, post-Corona, AFL. Do you think the stadium will fill out, or do you think there'll be a lot of caution? It just will come down to, at that point in time when it happens, do we have a solution to this problem?
Yeah.
Spot on. If the solution's not there, people are not going to go and take unwanted risk.
Absolutely on the money. I think we're all looking at the figures, understandably, looking at the figures of new cases, and obviously the number of new cases dropping and dropping and dropping in Australia, thankfully, and that's what we're focusing on. But the question still remains, how do we cure this thing? Like, how do we fix this thing? So I think that's an interesting point that you make, and I think businesses need to take a bit more heed of that, because, like I said, understandably, we're focusing on that rate of growth.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, I've got a new. I started Blank March last month, like less than a month, just over a month now, and I've got a new full-time staff. And it's hard, but you have to make those decisions for the safety of your family and for the safety of yourself and the wider community, that you adapt and quickly pivot and go and work from home, get the systems, get the technology, and you're not going to get it right. It's going to be frustrating. There is not going to be an operating rhythm, because when I started Blank, I didn't plan for this. I didn't know that in month one I'm going to be working from my home and my staff's going to be working from his home, and we've never worked together before. But you have to improve, and I'm pleased to say that we're getting better as time progresses, and as we as the days go and weeks go and months go, we're much better than what we were on day one. And I think in 6 months time, I'm thinking this will be the new normal. And in probably a year's time, with all the digital revolution and banks changing the way things, it's going to certainly have an impact on a lot of businesses in the way they operate.
Absolutely, man. And I really like that. That's what your focus is. The fact that people, when things start integrating back in, and they're still trying to find the vaccine or the cure or whatever the case may be, whatever it is, the thing that fixes it. I think that's what businesses need to focus on and understand, is that that's going to be the green light to really kick on and go back through the gears and what have you, in the way that either you have been doing things or the new normal way that you've been doing things. But I think until then, we need to anticipate that, though that might take more time than it takes for the government to release their sanctions and so on and so forth. Yeah. And therefore there will always be, actually a really good point, there will always be a level of caution in society until they know that if they get it, they can get fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's critical. That is critical.
But in the meantime, you still are going to have people buying. You still going to have people refinancing. People are going to move forward with their life. They're not, some might put some decisions on hold, but housing still going to be there. There is a need for housing. There is going to be a need for purchases to happen. The market's going to continue moving forward. So as a business owner, what I'm doing is, am I fit to attend to this market? So if a lead comes through, are we doing enough to give them an awesome experience, whether that be a digital experience, whether that be communication? How are we communicating? What are we doing? What is this customer going to remember us? And come back to do business with us.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, mate. I think focusing on the now is vitally important, and how you can work to this situation, this market, how you can work to society's feelings right now, not in the future. It's not even a case of how can you make what it is that you do. It's not even a case of how you can make them still function in the way that you've always done things. It's how can you take what it is that you do and make it work for the feelings, the emotions, the scenarios that people find themselves in right now. It's not a case, if you're in real estate, of just saying that we can do virtual appraisals. It's just, that's, for me, it's almost a lazy way of just trying to do the same thing that you've always been doing. We need to think about it, right? Let's actually think about the consumer. who in their right mind is going to list a property for sale, for example, by doing this, without having someone be in your house at some point to actually see the joint, right? But there's things that you can do that will help their feelings and emotions and so on and so forth, because ultimately there's going to be things that they're doing, like home improvements, for example. They get, it might well be worth you offering to give them an opinion as to what you think their effort has done to the value of their home. In more simple terms, right? Not let me do an appraisal for you. I can do it in 3 minutes, which there's no such thing. You never ever do an appraisal in 3 minutes. I don't think, not an accurate one anyway. But there are things that you can do utilizing the skills and the assets that you do have to be relevant to what's going on right now. I love what you did, what you're doing with respect to making the process, removing barriers in terms of making that process easier for people, because the more conversations people have with you as a service provider or whatnot, it can potentially lead to greater anxiety if you're trying to work stuff out. I love what you're doing in terms of trying to automate that process of pre-qualification, so that they don't feel that they're just going through a process when they do talk to you. Or a lot of that automated stuff, a lot of the standard question stuff is being taken away, which means that you can focus on the human being. And that alludes to something that Kylie Davis and I talked about last week, which is, and Sarah mentioned this a couple of days ago as well, Sarah Bell, mother of Rita by Air. Technology was never designed to take over. It was designed to make life easier. And that is not just for you, the operator, it's for the consumer as well. And you're utilizing that beautifully well, so that it allows you to do what you do, which is be human. You're a wonderful human being. And I think the more time that people can give themselves to be more human, the much more they're likely to be able to help people. You reckon that's right?
100%. Couldn't agree more, man. Technology is to complement your business, not to replace what you bring to the business. So you bring your own personality, you bring your own no technology can replace what a human being does. And a human being builds connection and is able to add value to customers through. That's my son. Meet him.
Yeah, there he is. Hello, big fella. How are you?
That's Jaden.
How are you, mate?
Daddy, when are you coming on
He's asking to when are you coming on the TV?
Mate, we're already on. Mate, come on the show. Come on the show. You're live. How you finding being at home, buddy?
He can't hear you because you're on the. Let me just get this off.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, take that off.
Yeah.
Hey, mate, how are you finding being at home?
Talk to him. Good.
Good. Right. Are you doing homeschooling? Are you doing school at home? Here we go.
Over, man. Your show will be taken over.
Hello. What's your name?
She's Bella. What's your name?
Bella. Mate, look, I think I need to let you get on with your beautiful, beautiful family. Thanks ever so much for bringing them on the show, man. It's better than
it was unexpected.
It's better than having this mug to be looked at all the time. You know what I mean? It's much better to be looking at awesome little youngsters.
This is real life, man. This is work from home.
Perfect. It is. It really is. You've got kids hanging off of you. You've got all sorts of stuff going on. But what I love about you, mate, is it just, it doesn't need to get in the way of what it is that you do, because you are so aligned with who you are, how you go about it, and how you're going to help people. And I love that about you. You're a brilliant human being. Mate, you take care of that amazing family, all right?
Thanks, Andy. It's been a pleasure, buddy. Look after yourself, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. You take care. Guys, on behalf of Bernard and myself, thanks for tuning in to Late Night TSL, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy.
See ya. Bye.